subscribe to my mommy's channel. Like, comment, and share.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Where is the Manual? It's your girl Kiki. There's something I've come to realize about parenting. You're never doing it alone, even when you think you are. I parent with my parents in the room. I parent with my childhood in the room. I parent with voices, reactions, instincts that didn't start with me. This episode is about generational parenting. What my Caribbean parents did, what shaped me, what hurt me, what helped me survive, and what I'm trying to do differently while still carrying where I came from. Isn't about blaming our parents. It's not about erasing culture. It's just really being honest about the impact and choosing intention over instinct. And that's a hard one. So I grew up in a Caribbean household, and if you know, you know. Respect was everything. Children were seen, not heard. Adults didn't explain, they pretty much instructed you to do things. The discipline was loud. Sometimes it was physical, and that was framed as love. Yelling was normal. The beatings were normal. Fear was often a tool used to create discipline or obedience. And here's the part I want to say carefully. My parents weren't monsters. And I'm talking about really my mom because that's who I lived with. She basically was parenting from, I guess, her own survival, right? From stress, from immigration, from her limited emotional language, right? How she grew up. They did what they knew, but intention does not cancel impact. Just because something was normalized doesn't mean it was healthy. Just because we survived it doesn't mean it didn't shape us into who we are. There are moments when I hear myself yelling at my own daughter, and it shocks me, it surprises me because I don't want to yell. I don't really believe in it, and yet it still comes out. That's when I realized something important. Trauma doesn't just live in memory, it lives in the body. Yelling is instinctual for me because it was modeled. That's what I grew up around. Not because it aligned with who I want to be, but that's all I've known myself. And then there's the physical discipline. I do not want to hit my child. I am committed to not hitting my child. But I need to be honest, there are moments, especially when I'm super overwhelmed, stressed out, that's where that instinct shows up. And that scares me because here I am about to hit my own child, knowing the impact that has made. Because the instinct isn't about morality, it's about conditioning. And naming that doesn't make me dangerous, it just makes me aware. The instinct isn't who I am, it's what I was taught. And how do I unlearn that? One of the biggest differences in parenting is what happens after I mess up. Because we all mess up, right? As parents, you're never going to be a perfect parent. There are times I catch myself like mid yell. There are times I realize I overreacted instead of responding, right? And then I do something I never experienced growing up. Apologizing. I tend to apologize a lot more and really make an effort in not repeating the same thing. I would get down to her level and I would say, I'm sorry I yelled. That was not okay. Mommy was overwhelmed, but it's not your fault. That matters to kids. That repair matters. It teaches accountability. It teaches emotional responsibility. It teaches safety. I don't need to parent perfectly. I need to parent consciously. And what I find is that my daughter can also mirror that behavior. When she does something that she knows that I don't like, she can come to me and say, I'm sorry. And then we can talk about it and move forward. I didn't grow up with a voice. I didn't get explanations, I didn't get choices, I didn't get to say how I felt. And now I'm raising a child in a completely different way. I let her speak. I give her age appropriate choices. I explain a lot of the whys, not just the what, right? So it's like, yep, you can't do this because here's why, right? So it's not just, oh, don't do that. And sometimes that scares me too, right? There's a part of me that wonders, am I raising a child who's too soft, too opinionated, and too free? Because now here I am, this little spicy little girl who tells me exactly how she feels. And sometimes she doesn't have a filter and she's still learning how to do that. So am I giving her too much leeway? Am I giving her too much freedom? But then I realize and I remind myself voice doesn't mean disrespect. Choice doesn't mean lack of structure. What I'm teaching her is agency, emotional literacy, and safety. Things I have to learn as an adult. So, how do you structure that, right? Like, how do you make sure that what you're teaching is a great balance? My early years felt different because of my grandmother. She was my safe space. She was present. She made me feel seen. And then she moved to Canada. And that loss happened quietly. No one explained it. No one really checked in emotionally. I just adjusted, right? I learned to internalize. I learned to self soothe, which is a huge issue in how I am as an adult. And I learned to survive silently, and that stayed with me. So when I say I want my child to feel safe, always, this is why. I know what it feels like to lose safety without language, and I don't want that for her. And I'm not throwing everything away that I've learned, right? I'm still keeping the respect, the structure, right? The cultural pride. My child is more Guyanese than I am. The accountability. I mean, my child knows how to say she's sorry, apologize, and really not and understand the reasons for that necessary change. The things that I'm leaving behind is like the fear-based discipline, the emotional silence, the obedience without understanding or clarity. What I want to add, what I am adding is emotional language, right? How do you regulate, self regulate? How do you repair? How do you give choice? And that isn't rejection, it's evolution, it's of sorts. I'm not erasing my roots, I'm growing from them. So if you're listening to this and doing similar work, here are some tools that have helped me. I pause the body first. I take a breath before correcting behavior because most times people are reacting out of anger or fear, right? So, pausing, naming the emotion, yours and theirs, right? So you can build that emotional language. What are you feeling at this moment? Repair out loud, right? Apologize when you miss it because you will, as a parent, mess up. And you have to be able to say that you are sorry. Sometimes you can lower the bar on hard days, right? It's really about safety over perfection. And it is okay to get support. Therapy, books, community, groups, right? I do a lot of all of those things because this parenting thing is not easy. And this one really matters. You're not betraying your parents by doing something different. You're honoring them by evolving, right? Being better than they were. Because that's the whole point. You want your kids to be better than you. There's a grief that comes with this type of conscious parenting, though, right? Because sometimes when I give my child what I didn't have, it kind of hurts, right? Because it reminds me of what I needed, and what I didn't receive, and how much I learned to live without. And holding that grief doesn't mean I love my parents less. It means I'm honest about my own experiences. If you're breaking cycles gently, imperfectly, intentionally, I want you to know something. You're not failing, you're learning, you're doing the work, and that's what's important. Parenting isn't about erasing the past, it's about choosing differently in the present. I'm raising my child with more tools than I had, and that's the work, right? That's where the manual comes in, right? This is we build our own manual, we build our own, which actually becomes very different for each child, even within the same household. So until next time, remember none of us got the manual, but we can always choose to do better. See you next time.
Subscribe to my mommy's channel. Like, comment, and share. See you on next time.